Welcome, everyone. So good to have you here. Last call of the year. Oh my gosh, and it's been quite the year. I'm going to pass to Chenny, and then I'll do a little intro for our agenda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chenny, CEO and co-founder of GotCare, a Coralus Canada venture. And I wanted to do today's land acknowledgement. So I'm actually currently in Mexico City, and I was just looking up the land acknowledgement for where I am. So for context, normally I'm in Toronto, which is Treaty 13 in Canada. For today in Mexico City, it is actually, I'm on the land of the Aztec peoples. And what's interesting is that the city was actually initially built over a lake called Lago de Texcoco. And the Aztecs actually built an artificial island by dumping soil into the lagoon. And later on, the Spaniards sort of erected Mexico City on top of the ruins of the original ancient city. And one of the things I really love about Mexico City, and one of the things I've been thinking about, is I feel like they have a much healthier relationship with their Indigenous culture and peoples than we do here in Canada. And so one of the things that I was at just a couple of days ago, I went to Temazcal, which is like a sweat lodge. And there was a ceremony performed by a community elder. And one of the things that really struck me was sort of this practice around gratitude towards the different elements. So the one that I thought that was really powerful for me was just really connecting to the element of earth. So I thought maybe we could just take a few seconds to just plant our feet on the ground, soften our gaze or close our eyes, and just take a breath in. And on your breath out, sending your energy, your gratitude, and your appreciation for the earth and all the people who were on this land before you. And once more, so breathing in, sending that love, energy, and appreciation back into the earth. Thanks, everyone. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Vicki.
Thanks so much, Chenny. It's been a wild day. I just want to appreciate Nat for a moment before we get started, because I think between 3, 4, 5 people who were on the agenda called at the last minute sick. So thank you, Chenny, for stepping in to do land acknowledgement from Mexico City. Just loving the flow that's going on. So today we're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to start with Danielle talking about the numbers and so the numbers for the year, what happened, money being loaned out, etc. And then we're going to move to talk about the shift from the individual to the collective, community highlights, partnership spotlight, venture spotlight, and then a little gratitude practice and sharing of other things that we're excited for. So really happy that you're here. Thanks for being here. And Danielle, you're up.
Thank you. Nat, if you could share the image of the 2022 by the numbers, what we have here is nearly $14 million in funding. That's our community's capital circulating across all of the Coralus ventures in 5 different regions. So 11.8 million of that is in 0% interest loans. You can see the breakdown in each country on the chart: 5.9 in Canada, 3.6 in the US, 1 million in New Zealand, 825K in Australia, and 500K in the UK. So this money is flowing to the ventures to create massive spillover benefits into society, as we have seen in our impact report, where each venture is working towards the UN SDGs. The chart on this graphic is static. It was pulled around last month. The actual number in circulation is dynamic, since our fund is always flowing forward. So if you can imagine these numbers actually changing throughout the year, as capital flows in perpetuity, as ventures pay back each quarter, the number in circulation changes. And as we introduce new ventures into our portfolio and new loans are given out at least twice a year, we increase the number significantly. You'll also see that we distributed $2.1 million in perpetual funds to 6 ventures. The perpetual fund is a low interest, short-term bridging loan that's available by application to our current ventures. So ventures have used this nourishment of capital for all sorts of use cases, including bridging for purchase orders and inventory, as well as short-term injections of cash flow. And finally, we want to celebrate having presented 60 learning sessions and opportunities for the community to convene on topics like mindset, systems, ventures, and finance. We introduced the Learning Track series in the first half of 2022, and we continued with a monthly mindset and entrepreneurial track series that ended just last month. So please let us know in the chat if you had a chance to attend one of these sessions and if there was a moment or highlight in particular that resonated with you from the past year. We're going to be sharing a couple more snippets from these learnings, and we'll continue celebrating stories from the community as opportunities to connect in the coming year. And I'll pass it over to Nat to lead us off in the individual to collective.
Thanks, Danielle. It's funny, I asked Vicky to talk about this section and then was describing all the things I wanted to tell you about, so thought maybe I would just do it as well. One of the big themes at Coralus this year has really been moving from the idea of each of us as individuals doing our own individual work to really thinking about ourselves as a collective, and really working together across all of the issues, experiences, and opportunities that we see in this community. And this year we had 3 major projects which really embraced this idea of moving from individual to collective. The first was our new name, which Danielle and Tasha will tell us a bit more about in a minute. We started coming at the community with a couple of ideas and realized that that wasn't the way that this community wanted to experience naming, and instead moved to a group who could really participate in that process together. From there, we heard a lot of feedback that people wanted to be working together meaningfully on projects. They wanted to get to know other activators in their communities and in their regions. And so we launched the Know Our Community project, where we had over 360 community members make phone calls to one another, and really learned a lot about what this community is looking for, what we're all interested in, and why we come here. And Skye will share a bit more about her experience on that in a minute. And then finally, out of our Know Our Community project, we heard a lot about wanting to work together on projects and wanting an opportunity to really be able to bring forward our strengths. And so we kicked off Confluence, a week-long event where activators, ventures, community members brought forward sessions on topics they were excited about and worked together to collaborate. It was a really interesting project. I had a really fun time at it. I hope many of you were able to attend. And it really was the example that we set forward of our community working together, and bringing forth all of our different strengths to create something bigger together. Danielle and Tasha, do you want to tell us about new name?
Thanks, Nat. So this year, in case you missed it, we embarked on the process of changing our name. Earlier in the year, we put it to a community vote with results that were inconclusive. So that led to us taking it back to the drawing board. And we were joined by a group of over 20 community members who participated in weekly calls that helped us to brainstorm and sense our way forward. So thanks so much for trusting us in that process. I am no brand expert by any means, and there really is no blueprint for doing something like this, for co-creating a new name with your community. So all of us were doing this with a real blank slate and doing it for the very first time. All it really took was the community coming together to trust the messy process. We gathered with an open mind and the spirit of the values and the essence that we wanted to evoke with a new name. And as much as a new name was important to achieve, bringing people along on the journey of change and what we wanted with a new name and the era to evoke was essential. So from there, the name really revealed itself, and the way forward showed itself to us as we looked into themes of nature. Coralus is a name that combines coral and us and takes inspiration from the coral reefs that are the mega stabilizers in the ocean that make up 1% of marine life, yet sustain 25% of it. And it really helped us to signal yet again by nature of the process we undertook that we were moving from the individual, SheEO, to the collective with Coralus. And we're really proud of the evolution we've started to undertake with you all, and can't wait to see where this takes us next. I'll pass it over to Tash to let us hear a little bit from her perspective on this interesting process as well.
This is a very interesting process. Hi, for those of you I haven't met, my name is Tasha, and I am a branding person. I help companies describe things that are really big ideas. That's part of one of my favorite types of work to do. So when the idea of describing something that people, it's like you really can't put it into words until you experience it. And then you add on top of that the layer of dynamic, like very inclusive, shifting sands kind of like process into that. And then you have people with very strong opinions. It was one of my favorite projects I've ever done partly because Danielle's helped me navigate. This is unprecedented in the way that you come up with the name. Like you don't send it out to the group and say, let's have a giant, month-long work session. That's just not a thing that happens. So Danielle helped me navigate how that could actually work, because she's seen how this sort of energy flows throughout the community. And then I brought in the structural part of the branding naming process, and together I think we sort of added to each other's skill sets and experience. But I will tell you, I've never seen anything like it. Every time the community gave us pushback, the strong opinions were also like, one of my favorite things is that they had space to breathe and not be a crisis. Like there were disagreements and there's some very strong opinions throughout, and especially at decision points, but it would never felt like the community was going to fall apart. It felt more like, oh, this is a safe space where we can talk about what this all means to us as individuals and see where we can meet on common ground. And it was a really beautiful process. Again, I've never seen anything like it. I doubt I ever will again. But the way that the name surfaced was truly, like, it was really beautiful. It was a really beautiful experience to see it so intimately and also to share it out with the group. So I also want to thank the people who were hands-on with this, and who also just the people who kind of contributed to the energy that we were all working off of. It's no joke to rename something that is so potent, has been around for a while, and that people are so passionately attached to. And I really admire the community for its flexibility and its determination to like get to the right answer together. That's just not something you often see, at least in my line of work. So huge hats off to Danielle, who under my guidance, this would have imploded, but she was really incredible at, she was my translator for the Coralus community. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you both. It's no small feat, and really your work on this helped guide all of us, and your receptiveness in listening to that pushback from the community and the ways that folks wanted to be involved was really quite remarkable. Anything else you want to add before we move along? Beautiful, thank you. So that's a little bit about the MAD process that we all decided to participate in, to rename collaboratively, work together, take all of that feedback and strengths. I want to invite Skye to come and tell us a little bit about what the Know Our Community project was like for you.
Thanks, Nat, and hi, everyone. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm an activator. And as Nat was saying, I was involved in the Know Our Community pilot collective that was led by Moira earlier on this year. And I was involved in a few rounds of calls throughout the year. Didn't realize there was over 300 callers. That's amazing. So I was connecting with activators and a few ventures across the country, and some of those I can see are here today. As a relatively new activator at the time, I really wanted to get to know and connect with our community better, which is why I signed up as soon as I saw Moira's invitation to join the project. I just signed up straight away. I thought it was an amazing opportunity to be a part of such a great project. So I was really inspired by being part of this project. It really affirmed the reason why I joined Coralus in the first place. To be part of a really generous community of like-minded folks trying to be a force for a positive change in the world. And the thing that really stood out for me during my time in this project was the spirit and the ethos of radical generosity. I know that's sort of tangible and visible and talked about in all of our calls, but it was very much present in every conversation that I had with all of the activators. So what I found in this through my conversations is that my fellow activators were overwhelmingly positive and excited when I connected. So when I called and I said I was calling on behalf of then SheEO, now Coralus, everyone was super excited, and the calls were really just conversations, connecting with others that went way over our allocated time. So when I called people, everyone I spoke to immediately said to me, the first thing was like, "Tell me what you need." Or what can I do for you? What I find so refreshing about this community, that it's about collaboration and empowering others. And what I found that everyone I connected with were really generous with their time, with their ideas, with their input. We had a lot of shared ideas in our conversation. So there was an abundance of new ideas shared during these conversations, and also gathered, which was part of the reason why we did this project, on how we can connect as a local and as a global community. And I really observed through my conversations that everyone in their own diverse and unique ways are making an impact in their respective domains and in their respective communities. But I found that collectively, everyone has a great ripple effect impacting those systems that need changing. And echoing Nat's comment earlier about moving from the individual to the collective. Through this project, I made some great new connections. Some of those are here today within this community. One conversation in particular actually resulted in a local community gathering here in Melbourne, which is where I'm based, which in turn sparked even more connections at this particular event. And now there's been further opportunities to gather as a consequence of that. So amazing outcomes. So a key takeaway for me from this project was getting to know the radically generous community and folks who are part of Coralus. And it really, I guess, highlighted to me that as a community, we're much greater than the sum of our parts. And I know Moira said that a lot during our time on the project. So in closing, I'd like to thank Moira. I'm not sure if you're here, Moira. I don't think you're here. But anyway, thank you. No. For providing such a great opportunity. I loved being part of this project. It was one of my highlights amongst many as part of the Coralus community, but that was a key highlight for me this year. And
Thanks, Sky.
Thanks, Nat.
And the thing I have to say about Sky is we assigned everybody an initial slate of people to call. And of course, life got busy. Not everyone jumped in. And Sky kept saying, I'll do another round. I'll do another round. I'll make more calls. And so it's really so special to hear about the impact of that. And I'm so glad that you were part of this project with us. So thank you so much. I'm going to jump in and just share quickly a little bit about Confluence. As we had these amazing calls and some of what you heard from Sky, people's desire to get together in person, to get together with those in their community. As we heard more and more about this, we decided to experiment with an unconference of sorts, a confluence, the place where two rivers meet. Think about a bit of a different way to work. And we worked really collaboratively with our amazing partners at Greater Than to put together a 4-session training for a bunch of community members who were interested in developing their own sessions. People came to us with ideas they already had, sessions they'd already run, and questions that they had that they wanted to explore, and really brought together different community members to share our talents, our interests, and work collaboratively in this way. We had over 500 people register, over 300 people attend across 30 plus sessions with 24 different leaders. And together we were really able to see the wide breadth of strength that exists across this community. If you have questions about Confluence, about KOC, know our community, about the new name thing, or anything else we have talked about today, all of this and more is shared on our year in review Notion page, which the incredible Danielle whipped up to be able to look at all of the things we did together. I will share a link in the chat. But for now, I would like to stop talking, and instead I would love to invite the dear Julie Trell to come and tell us a little bit about what all of those in-person gatherings look like and how we've built momentum for this. Julie, over to you.
Okay, so I may not have followed the brief exactly. I was up, I dreamt about this call and this talk, and if I'm allowed to take a step back, again, breaking the rules here, is to celebrate the fact that Australia has been a Coralus country for 5 years. It was 5 years ago where we got Vicki Saunders to come down for the inaugural Visiting Entrepreneur Program. So there were a lot of events there that kicked it off. It planted the seed. And then we had in virtual Myriad session where Vicki came in, zooming in before our simulcast expertise had come into play and COVID hit. And $100,000, I did an ask and it showed up, and we were able to do all of these in-person events over those years. So I'm kind of doing a reflection on 5 years. Hopefully it's okay that I've broken the brief. And in celebration of 5 years, I came up with 5 different themes. The gatherings and events and the friends that have been made. So this is part of the brief, definitely, throughout the year that have been happening across Australia. Now, I know I have not gotten all of them, which is amazing that I don't know all of them that are happening organically. But some of that I know offhand are what Marianne Anderson is doing with and leading monthly breakfasts and catch-ups. This is also on her own terms. Adelaide has been having regular dinner gatherings, and I can't wait to get down there to Adelaide again for Christmas. We've had Sydney happy hours that have shown up with beautiful backgrounds of the Opera House. And we have also done, which I'm really proud of the team and everyone showing up, these virtual simulcasts that we can pull off so easily now, just as, you know, as what Tosh was talking about, the designing of the name and coming up with the name. We the summits that we have had, the first one live, which was amazing. We had close to 300 people. I still have energy from that one. Vicki and MJ were allowed to come down, and that was a really big stake in the ground to get things moving. And then even the ones online that we've had were very successful. We had 70 people joining online that made friends and connected. And then when we did have in-person events, that was because of the summits. Monica Bradley led the Women's Investment Summit in Brisbane a couple of weeks ago, where there were around 20, 25 plus activators that showed up and gathered and got to meet in person. Junie, who came down, who was living in the Northern Territories, came through Sydney. Now she's in Melbourne, and there's been connections in real life happenings there. We hosted She Backs Me events, which has grown out of Coralus, which has been great. We had that in 3 states and brought in many activators new, and also I got to meet some ventures that showed up. Hello, she's a crowd. Zoe. I also got to learn all of the states because of this, because of the growth of all of the activators. I got to know all of my Australia states. So thank you for that geography lesson. So that was theme number 1. Theme number 2, iteration, which has also been brought up. So a lot of the stuff, I'm echoing what's been said. The Know Our Community work led by Moira has been great and got a lot of people connected, and which brought up what the feedback and understanding what resonates with who, and taking this knowledge and iterating. So I have been involved with Coralus for 6 years, and it's been great to see that iteration, which is really healthy and wonderful. Obviously, the new name, I personally love sharing the name and why we've changed it. Thank you, Danielle, for another explanation. I always get nuggets of it and to explain the why. Iteration also, so growth, the birth of She Backs Me, which has grown out of this. The application process that's been tweaked and refined and needed, and understanding how we do the investments to the venture. So again, this iteration is really important. And then my own iteration, learning and growing from flexing my ask muscle and learning how and when to say no, and when it's okay when someone says no to me. Third theme, measurement and impact. So thank you again for sharing that beautiful, the output, the numbers, the back of the envelope that I see is we've had close to, I can almost say, close to $1 million investment in Australia, 20 companies, ventures in the portfolio. But what I really love are the stories and the connections that have happened. For instance, I know She Backs Me and in digital are using GoGo events. We're collaborating there. So that's been a nice little impact. This butterfly effect of the little things that are happening because of these connections. I saw many ventures apply for the ANZLF awards, which Pleasant State won, and semifinalists see your data and analytics. So I got to have an event and see them. Trying to keep this event theme because I know that was my brief. Theme number 5 was the ventures, loving hearing and from dropping in to all the sessions. the venture WhatsApp group and hearing them support one another, good, bad, and ugly. I've been able to go do Warikiri dining with Sharon, with IndigiEarth, with a bunch of activators. We've done that a couple of times. I am now working with InDigital 2 days a week. So because of all of these ventures, sending referrals for jobs for Code Like a Girl, buying Kimchi Club products for friends for Christmas. And then finally, because I'll cut this short, is finally the fifth theme is the content. I live for the MJ sessions and meeting people and having conversations with that. Those are really big, powerful conversations when we do meet up in person. So I want to manage my time, and thank you for letting me break the brief and celebrate the 5 years of Coralus across Australia. The end.
Thanks, Julie. Great to see you. Love your new glasses. Thanks for sharing your passion in the community. Okay, next up, we're going to hear from Danielle and Anastasia. Is Anastasia here? Yeah. Okay, cool. Come on up, you two. They're going to talk a little bit about the partnership that we had this year. I know some of you have heard about this. We're going to summarize it again. Danielle and Anastasia, over to you. Great to see you both.
Thank you, Vicki. So we have Anastasia here, who we've been in partnership with. We've had an ongoing series of thought partnerships with Anastasia and Yenny from Dark Matter Labs. And we have worked in 2 different phases to build an artifact of what it is that we've created over the last 7 years. And then we did a spectrum of economies and really went through where Coralus sits in all of the different ways that we transact with one another and what it is that we're building. So I'll pass it over to Anastasia to tell us a little bit more.
Thank you, Danielle, and so great to be here. Every time I come to Coralus events in any shape or form, it's so regenerative. I think is the best word, because I just feel regenerated after, regardless of how late or early it is in the day. And yes, it's been a really, really exciting year. I think because as the year is finishing and I'm looking back, I'm realizing what a journey it's been. And that this is one of those rare partnerships where it's not working in one way, where in the sense of delivering something and then sort of getting approval for it, and that's the end of the partnership. This was a really symbiotic, and still is a very symbiotic relationship where I learn every time we have conversations with Danielle, with Vicky, with any of Coralus's team members, as well as Dark Matter. And then also that it evolves. We never know actually what the next step will be. Like, we have a vision, we have a narrative, but really Coralus guides us in the way, and it's almost like this partnership felt like finding pearls on the beach, because it felt like every time we touched on something, we uncovered another pearl and realized that the Coralus has created something so precious, or uncovered something so precious. And examples of that would be, and as Danielle has mentioned, we had phase 1 and phase 2, if we put it sort of in more definitive terms. And phase 1 was really, and it was such a gift of really, we had this blanket mandate to say, here's Coralus. It's undoubted the values and spillover values that it's generating over the last 7 years. Help us understand the story. Let's go and try to see it. And so out of that emerged this understanding of Coralus Cosmos and this relationship that's very much between the ventures, the activators, Coralus itself, and how it's almost like a DNA, right? It's so entangled. But it was very much this dynamic discovery, and out of that emerged that image of a shell that some of you probably have seen, which is how a gift becomes almost, as I said, it's like a sound of a shell that blows into the universe, the small gift that every venture and activator starts with. The venture starts with the gift of receiving, and activator starts with the gift of giving, and quickly those get entangled. So that was sort of our beginning. And then in terms of going back to my analogy of pearls, so for example, one of the things that emerged is that the very core or the very underlying flows of Coralus. And the reason Coralus can generate those spillover values in Coralus' universe has to do with the feminine way of doing things. And that feminine way of doing things is not something new. It's in fact embedded in us. And one of the ways to explain it is that in Coralus, all of us are in action. We're in action with each other, of giving, receiving. We're not in the process of nouns. Our relationship between each other is not two static individuals or an investor in a business. It's a flow. And that's something that's very much a feminine way of doing things. And if you look at our current economy and current capital systems, this is where one of our biggest challenges is that we've created the silos of physical objects and nouns and systems, and we forbid the interrelationship between them. And we see it as a threat, as a risk. And so what's been incredible is to understand that Coralus, the reason that it has this, and the reason it has created this alternative system where individuals, ventures, activators can thrive, is because it has really gone to the core of who we are as individuals, has gone to the core of us thinking the way we used to think, in some ways. Another pearl that I've discovered very much working with Coralus was realizing that when we truly bring our whole selves to the relationships, we no longer just default to our intellect, meaning our brain, the way we've been taught as women, for example, been taught so many times, just learn how to read first, learn how to write first, be the best in class and you'll succeed. That in fact, the intellect we very much bring is our gut instinct, our microbiome, and now how much we're understanding how important that is, that intellect and the intellect of our heart. And how actually, when we bring those three intellects, that's when we make the decisions that are for generations. Those are the smart decisions. And so that was another pearl. And that's very, as I said, those pearls, there's so many. I'm just sharing a few that come to mind.
Just wanted to say thank you so much, Anastasia. You've provided so much language, imagery, and movement through this partnership. And I definitely have learned so much from you as well. So thank you.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, you too. Great to have you here today. Anastasia, I also just want to recognize it makes me smile when you talk about bringing your whole self, because for some of you, a group of us, Gail Wong, Anastasia, Brandy from Farm from a Box, Denise Hearn. Oh my God, who else is there? Jenny's here. Jenny, we were all in an Airbnb together in London. And I showed up and started pulling out my Oracle cards. And Anastasia's everyone's like, oh, great, cards. And she's like, what are those? What is this? What are we doing? And then she bought them when she got home. So we converted her. So thank you for bringing your whole self. Yes, we can talk about the divine feminine and business in the same sentence. So welcome. Really great to see you. And thanks so much for all of the learning and the examining of what we're doing here and what it means and seeing it from different perspectives. It's one of my favorite things about this community is having a lot of different eyes on so that we can actually understand what it is that we're creating here. I'd like to call up Michaela Jade. Are you here?
For me, I'm here. Hi, Vicky.
Hello. So good to see you.
It's not good to see me on the camera today. I've had 4 hours of sleep, so.
Oh. All right. Well, hopefully we're going to energize you and you're going to energize us by just being in this community. So I'm very grateful that you came here today. I know you're in the middle of a team event and have a lot of stuff going on, but I really wanted to have you here to share an update. You have had an amazing year, a wild.
Yes. It's been a bit crazy.
Yeah, all over the world, getting this recognition, so much happening. I keep sending your TED talk to everyone. I thought it was so brilliant. But maybe we could just dial it back a little bit for a second and do you remember where you were in your development, personally and with the company when you first were selected? Take us back a little bit and forward.
Oh, 100%. So thank you for having me today and giving me some space to reflect, because it's always amazing to come into Coralus and meet new people and be able to learn from everyone. I'm really bummed I couldn't be here for the rest of it, sorry. But where was I? I had been running in digital as a side hustle while I was a park ranger for around 7 years before I applied into Coralus and was selected as a venture. We had a small grant, so we got $25,000 from AMP. We won an award to kind of kick off in digital as as a business. And I just recruited Joanna Baker as my first staff member. So there was 2 of us. We had a very tiny budget. We had big dreams, and we had no idea how we were going to bring to life this thing called InDigital, which is Australia's first Indigenous edutech company focusing on metaverse bridging technologies. So we've been working in augmented, mixed and virtual reality since 2012. And our vision is to bring cultural connection to these critical technologies. So we were just starting out. We didn't really know too many people. We'd been working with Microsoft as a partner to build a platform, and we were at the point where we wanted to bring this thing to life in the market. So that's the point in which we joined Coralus.
Awesome. And so then what happened next? Are there any specific things along the way? Bring us forward. Yeah.
Okay, bring you forward. So what happened next? My goodness. So today we have 11 staff operating from across Australia. We have 80% female in our company. We have 70% Indigenous staff members, and we've reached 9,000 kids, nearly 300 teachers across 170 communities and schools. And we've developed our program, we've been refining it throughout this time over the last 3 years. And it's kind of crazy to think it's only been 3 years, really. And we've won a Schwab Foundation Award for social entrepreneurship. So I was invited into the World Economic Forum ecosystem, and have been working with the Schwab Foundation and the World Economic Forum on metaverse governance and metaverse creativity and Indigenous inclusion in that space. We've won 11 national awards in the last 3 years, including women in digital tech. We won the Berkeley Co Awards. We've won so many awards. It's been amazing and getting kind of embarrassing now. We're a humble company, and it's lovely to be recognized in platform, but it's always a bit hard to accept the awards too, because I know there's so many other First Nations and other women doing incredible work out there too. And I'm at the stage where I just want to shine spotlights on other people. We won the Indigenous Alumni Award this year for ANU, and just got nominated and was a quarterfinalist for the Australian of the Year Awards for ACT. So there's been a lot of recognition for our work, and I think the best part of being where we are today is that I could never have dreamed the success that we were going to achieve in just 3 years when we sat down at that table with the other ventures and started talking about what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I'm really very moved. It's really just incredible. And I'm always the crier anyway, sorry. As you talk about this, it's just because I feel you as a voice. I mean, when you talk about bringing cultural connection to bridging technologies, because this is what is missing so deeply. Yes. We are, it's everything is trying to remove any humanity from things and focusing on the technology. Even before we started this call, Finn and Nat were trying to figure out how to get the person as big as the screenshot when you're sharing a screen, because the technology is preferenced over people in the platform. Everything is just so upside down. And so you talk about this quite a bit in your TED Talk, which I thought was absolutely genius. And so how are you doing as you're getting out and sharing this and trying to create these cultural connections? Because this is, we need this so desperately. How's it feeling?
It feels hard. It feels exhausting. There's not a lot of women in this space, so you're always feeling like, am I still the only one doing this? And I had this point last year, oh no, it was same as year 9, where I quit computing studies when I was in year 9 because I was the only girl in the room. I just felt really unwelcome and not a space that I felt comfortable being in. And then through the work that we're doing, we've reached so many kids and teachers and trying to make systemic change. But my daughter in year 9 said, Mum, I'm going to quit computing studies. And I was like, oh my God, we haven't even moved the needle because the same thing is happening to my daughter. So it feels like that a lot of the time, which is really frustrating. But I know like we only get this one amazing life. You know, I've had to reinvent myself. I tried to take my life when I was 29 and I made a commitment to myself then that I wouldn't be angry about what happened to our culture and our knowledge and our language and our law and our family. And I would just put all my energy for the rest of my life into making pathways and changes for people, especially my own mob, and that so they wouldn't have to go through that same horrific journey of trying to understand where they fit into the world. And so what we try and do on a day-to-day basis is make sure that all First Nations people can see our culture in these critical technologies, because 9 out of 10 jobs now rely on some form of technology. And we feel that if we can get a place at the table to help shape some of these critical technologies moving forward, that if it works for First Nations people, it's actually going to work for everyone a lot better. So that's kind of our why we operate. It is exhausting, but yeah, we've got this amazing community in Coralus. We've made networks across the world. We've always got people that we can call when things are going wrong or where we're confronting something for the first time. Like I remember when we were trying to work out how to bring staff on, and we were like, shit, we don't know how to do that. How we need to talk to other women that have done this before. We need to like work out policies, and we wanted to not just bring culture to technology, but we wanted to build a company from the ground up that expresses who we are as cultural people. So in that, we've prioritized our staff. And I remember having a conversation with MJ and yourself, Vicky, about you're saying what's your first priority in your company, and we're like, our team. And that was really unique. Not a lot of companies say our team's actually our first priority, but we've invest in our team. So we've designed it so we have 8 weeks of leave a year for our team. And we have 4 shutdowns in the company because that's our cultural cadence. Like every 12 weeks, we want to go back and spend time with our mob. And if you only give people like a limited amount of leave, you can't actually do that. So we shut the company because we all have high performing staff. And we're like, if we don't shut the company, they're just going to work and not rest. Yeah. So we want to burn them out.
Important.
Yeah. And yeah, so and just like really generous maternity leave, menopause leave, just thinking about the life cycle of women and how we want to operate our lives and also contribute to society. So we kind of designed our company that way. So that's taken a lot of, everyone's like, that sounds really hard, but it's actually really easy when you design it in from the start.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you start with that intention, I mean, this is what I love about the community of ventures that have been selected is that a lot of people are rethinking everything, right?
Yeah.
How do you do, given the space to do that, how might you start? And so thank you so much for making your commitment to creating the kind of world that you want to leave behind. I really appreciate that. And so what's next for you? What does the next year look like?
Well, I do want to give out an amazing shout out to 2 people in the Coralus community, actually, is Julie Trell, who works part-time in our company. It's been an amazing source of energy and connection and bringing people together and ideas and everything. And also Sarah from the GoGo Foundation. In Digital and the GoGo Foundation have been partnering for the last 18 months in a really mutually beneficial way. So some of the work that we do is with big corporations that have funds attached to Indigenous initiatives that are only sitting within their philanthropies budget. So in order to access those funds, we've been partnering with the GoGo Foundation and Sarah, who's absolutely amazing, to set up a process where that part of those funds go towards the GoGo program, which invests in women. So in Sarah being able to help us manage those funds, we're also investing in women in her program as well. And then the money comes to invest in our community through our program. So, that wouldn't have been possible without Coralus and the operations there. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for coming in today. It's really great.
Thank you, everyone.
I hope you feel more energized.
I do. I've got to get this bag back from one of my eyes today.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's lovely to see you again. I'm sorry I've just skipped back out. We're doing a team planning thing today, so I've got to go hang with my team and build something amazing for next year. So,
Fantastic. Thank you so
Yanu,
much.
and thank you so much.
Bye, Mick. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Okay, we're right on time. We'd love to just do quick, like 6 minutes of breakouts to just kind of reflect on what you've heard and also maybe share in a smaller group what has moved you this year. And then we're going to come back and close together. So Nat, are you cool to do that? Yep, groups of 3, off we go. Awesome. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I did also want to mention before I forget to say this, that we sent out an email to everyone who's been an activator ever in Australia and in New Zealand to let you know that we are coming to visit. Yay, in person, getting on a plane. Oh my God, so far, can't wait. And so check your inbox for details, and agenda is going to be, who knows what, we're going to figure things out, but coming to Adelaide from 25 to 27 of February and New Zealand from 1 to 15 of March. So really, really looking forward to seeing all of you. Nat, I wonder, is this all of us? Is that all of us on the wall? Oh, you know what's on this wall? Yes, these are right behind me are almost all of the cards. We just got some new ones printed up, the 140 ventures, because I was having a tough time earlier the year when I first came back, like trying to figure out what's next and where things are going. And I would just turn around and ask myself, what are the ventures trying to tell us? And also just to see all of that. And so I feel like I'm surrounded by like all of this innovation and excitement. Yeah, so these are cards. For those who don't know, we created these a while ago because I have a brother who played in the NHL, and they all have hockey cards and there's baseball cards. And I don't understand why boys have cards and we don't have cards. And like, this is what I think the card should be. You should be on a card if you're changing the world. Who cares if you play a sport? Why do they need cards? We need cards for this. This is the stuff that really matters, getting to the heart of it. Anyway, so maybe we could figure out how to put these all online so people can download them and print them off, because it's very nourishing to see all of this activity and feel it all behind you. Okay, Nat, over to you on the gratitude board. Shall I do that? Sorry, took too much time.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
You want me to share my screen?
Yeah, please.
It's coming. Okay, so on that beautiful, yes, Finn, while I'm talking, will you pin my video? On that beautiful board Notion page that we shared earlier, the year in review, there is a gratitude board. It has a highlight. Some folks have already started adding to it. I am going to share my screen if it ever loads for me. And what it is an opportunity for each of us to do a bit of reflection and share, how is this year for us? What are we grateful for? Finn has shared the link in the chat and would love for each of you, either today, maybe over the next couple of days, to take a moment to add a highlight or read one. Maybe you find that nourishing, find one that speaks to you, and really have an opportunity to share in gratitude. I'll leave that there. The link is in the chat and we'll share it out at the end as well. As we wrap up, I just want to say, before I pass it back to Vicki for any closing thoughts, just want to say thank you to all of you for joining. If you are an early bird, if you are in Australia, New Zealand, you're an early bird and you want to join this call again tomorrow to hear from different people talking about different experiences with some of the same things, you are more than welcome to. It'll be at 7 a.m. Sydney time and 9 a.m. Auckland time. So depending on where you are, maybe you want to join us. This year has been filled with lots of really interesting experiments, lots of growth, lots of rethinking, reconsidering, exploration, and it has been a joy to do it with each of you. So thank you for coming along for the ride. V, last 2 minutes, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. If you want to put 1 or 2 words in the chat of how you're feeling about your time in this community this year, would love to see it. I'm not going to do a chatterfall. Just put it in if you feel like it. And I really do want to, first word, of course, is love. Yay, Jenny, thanks. I really do want to say that to all of you. Love you very much. Really so grateful that you're all here and that we get to do this work together to show and demonstrate that it's possible to actually create a community, put money into that experience, and find ways to collaborate and have that money roll forward for the kinds of things that we would like to see happening in the world. It's such a stunning experiment, what we're all doing together. We're getting a lot of interest from people on how to replicate stuff like this. So next year is going to be starting to play with some documentation, starting to do some mentorship, maybe with other organizations and reaching out. And I think most importantly, given all of the things that are happening in the world, the state of the economy, the sort of overwhelm post-COVID that we're all feeling, we really want to simplify, care for each other, and get into deeper relationship. So please take care of yourself and your families over the holidays. I hope you have a joyous, joyous time. And we really look forward to seeing you in January. Thanks, everyone.